The Dodgers avoid being swept by the Diamondbacks at home thanks to a Will Smith walk-off. Thank you, Willie. Yoshinobu Yamamoto was great again. Tanner Scott was not. We are diving into the consistently inconsistent Dodgers here on this edition of All Dodgers. Boom, boom. I'll say it again, that it needs bass. Coming at you live from my home studio in beautiful La Puente, California. This is the All Dodgers podcast. We'll hit some mans because the Dodgers did win on a walk-off, and we are happy when the Dodgers win. My name is Clint Pasillas. Find me as Real FRG on the social media. That guy joining me today is Jeff Snyder, co-host extraordinaire of this All Dodger show. Find him as Snydog on the social medias. This is kind of a take two for us because I messed up and left the first edition of the show on unlisted, but we got it all sorted out, guys. Jump into the comments. Let us know how you're feeling about the Dodgers after this weekend. Jeff, let me know. Let all of us know how you're feeling about the Dodgers after this weekend, because you wanted to take at least 2 or 3. You wanted to sweep, but the Dodgers once again salvage a series on the getaway day.
Yeah, first of all, did you mention? I don't think you mentioned on this particular take that All Dodgers is part of the Bleav Network podcast brought to you by FanDuel. Now it's been mentioned.
Now it has been mentioned.
But yeah, you know what? There's no way to couch this series other than this was a disappointing series. You can look at the homestand overall, say, hey, 4-2 on the homestand. If you told us they'd go 2-1 against the Reds and 2-1 against the D-backs, you'd be like, okay, I guess that's not terrible. But, you get greedy once you sweep the Reds and then playing against the D-backs team that is not as good as the Dodgers. They're not terrible, but they're not as good as the Dodgers. You got to win that series. And unfortunately, after losing the first 2, all you can hope for is to salvage one game. And they were able to do that. It was a bummer that it took a walk-off homer because it should have been a 4-1 win. Should have been. I don't care about pitcher wins, so I don't care that Yamamoto didn't get the win. But I would feel better if Tanner Scott had just come in and shut things down, because one of the things I'm looking for over this last month of the season is Tanner Scott going to be any good in October? And, today he's still not striking guys out, and so that was frustrating. But, they won the game, so that's good.
Yeah. Tanner Scott has not looked exceptional since returning from the injured list. Let's do a little bit of positive. I guess we could do like negative, positive, negative, or whatever. We'll be positive at the top. I really did love everything out of Yamamoto. He needed to play the stopper today, and he did. Unfortunately, he couldn't get through a complete game, which apparently you need to do when Tanner Scott is available in your bullpen. 10 strikeouts over 7 innings through 98 pitches, 1 earned run for Yamamoto, and the kind of, Diamondbacks got the scoring started a little cheaply with that bunt by Ketel Marte in the 4th inning, but it is what it is. That's the time you do it, not later in the game like they were talking about on the broadcast. But the series as a whole, obviously the offense was bad. It was rough. Today was okay. Starting pitching, though, continues to be so very dang good. Even yesterday with Glasnow, obviously he had some bleeding issues, and personally with the crap I've given Glasnow over the last week and change, I'm proud of him for actually staying in the game and not just being like, oh, this is all wrong, I'm gonna go wash my hair about it. So I don't even care.
For those of you at home, Clint Pasillas is proud that the version of Tyler Glasnow that only exists in his head did not show up at Dodger Stadium this weekend.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I feel like there are a number of people who kind of understand my narrative as well. What I'm working to do is inspire him to not be a little B-word, to be a man. And he did that. He did that decently in yesterday's ball game. Of course, the offense decided to get a little bad news bears, the defense got a little bad news bears, got a little Three Stooges in the 7th inning. The Diamondbacks scored 3 in that inning, and that was all she wrote. And there's just always something. It seems like there's always something with this team, and we're going to dive into that a little bit later on in the show. But today, though, again, offense did enough to get the job done, and this is with Teoscar on the bench. So pick your poison on where you want to kind of navigate from here.
Yeah, and you mentioned the starting pitching, which does deserve a lot of credit. Like, if you're looking for a positive to take away from this weekend, it's the fact that the Dodgers had their top three starting pitchers go, and all three of them pitched really well. The different levels of really well, but all of them put up performances that will give you a good chance to win games in the postseason if the offense shows up. And the bad side is the Dodgers scored what
5 total runs. No, 6
six,
total
right?
runs. Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been 5 if they hadn't needed the walk-off homer. 6 runs in 3 games. That's not this Dodgers offense. It's not what it needs to be, and it was continuing the trend because yes, Zach Gallen is a better pitcher than he has been this year, but he has still been a bad pitcher this year, and they should have been able to do something against Zach Gallen. And I don't know. Maybe good Zach Gallen showed up, and maybe the rest of the season we'll see. Oh, he figured it out, and turns out good Zach Gallen is back just in time for free agency. But it continues this trend of facing guys with high ERAs and helping them lower their ERAs, and which is not what you're looking to do as an offense. You would like to make those ERAs higher. They did finally get to Brandon Pfaadt, another guy with a high ERA, but even that, not as much as you would have liked them to. And but to get shut down by Zach Gallen and Eduardo Rodriguez, 2 guys who have been good in the past but not this year, was definitely somewhere between frustrating and infuriating for a Dodger fan this weekend.
Yeah, and I saw a number, something about I don't remember exactly what it was, but just the narrative or the point of it was how bad they were doing against dudes like opposing pitchers with an ERA north of 5, and especially of late heading into today, when the offense wakes up, 46 runs over their last 6 wins heading into the game today, just 9 runs over their previous 6 losses as well. And that is the tail of the tape there of the inconsistency in particular on the offensive side. And then you throw in the wrinkle today of, the offense did a little bit of enough, and then Tanner Scott was like, I am back, baby. And, nobody was happy about that.
And there was also the frustrating part this weekend of the Dodgers shooting themselves in the foot. In Saturday's game, they took a run off the board because Kike Hernandez forgot that you should slide, and Freddie Freeman ran into an out at third base that was just, not inexcusable, but it was very uncharacteristic of Freddie as a base runner, and definitely hurt when the offense is already struggling. Taking guys off the bases and taking runs off the board like that was definitely, it felt like things were unraveling a little bit this weekend, especially in that Saturday game with those blunders by guys who, Kike has played long enough in the league to know, and has been slow long enough to know there's going to be a play at the plate. I need to run as fast as I can, and I need to read where the catcher is and get around the tag. It was frustrating and infuriating.
And for Kike to do something like that in particular about that play where he decided not to slide, it's like, you are a veteran. You are a guy who some people like myself, feel very high about when you get to this point in the season, later in the season, he's going to turn it on. He's going to be a little bit more focused, but that seems to be, the through line for this team right now. There is just an occasional absence of focus, and Dave Roberts is being more vocal about the fact that, there seems to be that sort of missing piece for it, or that missing component of that's leading to this inconsistency, and that is that missing focus from time to time. For one guy in particular, Teoscar Hernandez, not in the lineup today, was benched. Dave calling it a 2-day reset for Teo. Not happy with the quality of baseball. In that 7th inning in Glasnow's start on Saturday, people are going to give Andy Pages probably the most lip service for, trying to make a play, trying to do a hero play in that sinking line drive in center where I forgot who it was, ended up getting to second base when he could have held him at first. But the play at the wall, it feels to me, it was maybe a difficult play. Maybe I don't get to it, but I'm slow, old, and fat. Teoscar Hernandez has got to be able to secure that ball. That ball gets down. Thankfully, Glasnow didn't completely lose his crap on that particular play. He stayed, engaged enough and just couldn't get any more, a whole lot more help beyond that. But, Dave kind of, throwing his hands up, being like, I've seen enough. The last time you had heard they had quietly benched Teo for a game, now they have vocally benched Teoscar for a game. Teo saying before the game, obviously I'm not doing the best hitting. That was his quote, or I don't know when it was he said that, but
he didn't say goodest.
Not goodest.
I guess he'll never be a co-host of this show.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's at the point of the season where you should kind of air some dudes out a little bit, be open and honest about the fact that, hey, you are being benched because we're not liking what we're seeing out of you. What are your thoughts on El Bencho for Teo?
Yeah, it makes sense because he's been El Bato and the
breaking.
Yeah, I don't know that benching him is going to help. The reason they benched him quietly a couple weeks ago is because that was disciplinary. That was, you need to try harder. No. This is, you need some time off because you're bad right now. And, there's different approaches and that, yeah, it definitely needed to happen. I wish that they had somebody, they just don't have right now with Tommy Edmonds still injured, with Hae-Sung Kim still not back. I assume he'll be back tomorrow or Tuesday once rosters expand. But Alex Call has been fine. He's had his ups and downs since he came to the Dodgers, but it's not like there's a world beater ready to replace Teo or, Michael Conforto, who's always the other punching bag, deservedly so.
Yeah.
It would be nice if they had guys who were ready to step in and replace them. But, Kike Hernandez is one of those replacements. And as we've seen, Kike is not just the best hitter in the world. Hopefully he will be that in October.
Get him a calendar with 12 Octobers on it.
I used to when Giants fans would try to tell me that Madison Bumgarner was better than Clayton Kershaw, and they would point to October. And I would tell them, but doesn't that make you mad that this guy who, when he wants to, can be the best pitcher in the world, doesn't want to more often? And that's kind of how I feel about Kike. Like, I get all the reasoning and stuff, but if that's in the tank, I want you to want that more often. I want you to find that focus and whatever it needs to be. And honestly, I don't believe it about Bumgarner. I don't believe he had superhuman skills in October because I've watched him implode in October in person. He did have a couple really good postseasons, but that's because he was at the height of his powers and, a mix of a lot of different things. Kike Hernandez, I hope, will step up. But all of that to say, it's not like there are a ton of better options than Teo right now.
Yeah.
But they needed to give Teo some time off because the best option is Teo remembering how to hit.
Yeah, one of the things Dave was mentioning as well, like Alex Call is going to, Teo's 2 days off is 1 game off, and then they have a day off tomorrow, but saying that he liked the at-bat quality from Alex Call, who did play, a factor in today's game. But Alex Call, very clearly, they traded for him, and they don't have that kind of, I don't think they believe in him to be the answer or the replacement for a Teoscar. They don't even believe in him to be the answer or replacement for Michael Conforto, who, shocker, is still pretty bad, although I think it was a walk led to a big inning, a couple of runs for the Dodgers in the bottom of the fourth as well, which was important because you need more runs to win ball games. But one of those guys, somebody asked in the comments, Vic asking, any idea who the September call-ups are going to be? One of them is going to be Hae-Sung Kim, and the expectation is he's going to get maybe a little bit of a runway in left field, but still, that if he's in left field, like you said it perfectly, the best version of this team is going to have the best version of Teoscar Hernandez doing good Teoscar Hernandez things, and hopefully he's one of those guys when meaningful games happen, he switches it on. But I don't know. I'm tired of the whole thing of we talked for a couple months about like, well, if this guy comes back, if this guy comes back, well, now it's about needing to flip a switch to get it up and get it going against bad teams or whatever. I don't know. I have concerns about the team playing that way.
Yeah, and honestly, I wish that I believed more in the flip a switch idea. Mm-hmm. I wish that I believed that it was just a matter of focus or whatever. But the problem is, like I've joked before, if two teams came in exactly equally focused, would the game just go forever because neither team could win? The fact is, one team plays better than the other team. And sometimes focus is part of the reason why a team plays worse or better. And sometimes it's just bad luck, and sometimes it's this, and sometimes it's just that the other team is better. Obviously, the Diamondbacks aren't a better team than the Dodgers. We can rule that one out. I hope there's Diamondbacks fans in the chat.
I don't
know if Diamondbacks fans are a thing,
especially on the internet. Like,
yeah,
I know Foul has like Snakes territory. I don't know how good it does, but yeah.
But, so we can rule that one out. But,
respectful.
Yeah, there's focus. There's also just the fact that it's very unsatisfying of an answer, but sometimes the pitcher wins. Sometimes Zach Gallen makes a good pitch. And sometimes the hitter wins. Like today, Tanner Scott made a terrible pitch to Corbin Carroll. And yet, Corbin Carroll just as easily could have missed that by an eighth of an inch and hit a fly out to center instead of a 3-run homer. And we would have said, hey, sweet. Tanner Scott got through another one. Wish he had more strikeout stuff, but he's getting the job done. If Corbin Carroll takes a slightly worse swing, today felt like a good outing for Tanner Scott because there was a bloop single and then one legitimate hit. And so it would feel like at least a positive stepping stone, not like we're ready for this guy to close out Game 7 of the World Series, but a positive step in the right direction. But because Corbin Carroll put a perfect swing on it, it wasn't. And that's like the little things that I don't know. You can't draw too huge a narratives from little tiny things.
Well, the narrative we could draw is clearly this was the Diamondbacks World Series, like Mookie said 2 years ago, and they got it up better than the Dodgers got it up in this series. And maybe there is some truth to that to a degree. We're going to talk in a second about some, I guess, I don't know if they're even eyebrow-raising quotes from the team, but I have a series of quotes from Dave Roberts and Miguel Rojas in particular that I would like to run through before we shift into that. Just blanket reactions, I guess, to this series and more so the last couple weeks as a whole. To you, which series was more disappointing? Is it the split with the Rockies or is it losing 2 of 3 to the Diamondbacks?
They're both very disappointing in their own ways, but it's got to be this one because the split with the Rockies, it was at Coors Field where anything can happen and nothing, baseball shouldn't be played there. It's a dumb stadium, great stadium in a dumb place. And, that you could get swept there and be like, well, Coors Field's wacky. But this one, the Dodgers coming off a series sweep of the Reds who are fighting for a playoff spot, being in a situation where it looks like the offense is starting to click, all of that, adding it all together, and then just being completely unable to hit against guys who've been terrible this year. As frustrating and disappointing as that Rockies series was, this was a series that, especially when you factor in that the Padres struggled against whoever they were playing.
Twins.
Was it the Twins this weekend?
Yeah.
Dodgers, if they had taken care of business, they could have picked it up another game or two on the Padres and didn't. And so you add all that together, this one feels more frustrating than the Rockies series to me.
And I think, Phillies lost today. Yeah, so Dodgers are still now 1 game behind the Phillies for that second best record in the National League situation, which to me is very important. I would like to have that first round bye. I'd like to see this team have that first round bye. It's worth looking again, as we usually do at our friends over at FanGraphs, looking at the division odds. And
we should call it FanDuel though, since they're the sponsor instead of FanGraphs.
FanGraphs, FanDuel. Listen, I'm trying here. I'm trying my best. Dodgers at minus 450. That feels like it's the minus 450 favorites to win the division. Padres plus 330. And that feels like the 450 feels like it's the highest it's been for the Dodgers in a while.
Yeah,
but the Padres
absolutely.
keep creeping up. Like, if anything, this 3-game series, the Dodgers could have and should have, as I think it was Matty Man or somebody was saying in the chat, like coulda, woulda, shoulda. If, woulda, coulda, shoulda. You took 3 games off the calendar because you still have a 2-game lead in the division. Apparently, FanDuel likes that. Said it right this time, but you could have had a bigger lead, and that's what's tough about it, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely is. I saw Alex in the chat saying, pointing out that Corbin Carroll didn't miss the ball. And it's the second time that Corbin Carroll's hit a huge home run against Tanner Scott this year.
Yeah,
and that was literally my point, Alex, because, I mean, if Corbin Carroll puts a slightly worse swing on that one today, then we'd be talking about, hey, he got Corbin Carroll out this time. He should probably stop throwing him fastballs right down the middle, though. But like the little things, pitchers get away with terrible pitches all the time. And, the Tanner Scott, maybe he's making so many terrible pitches that even with getting away with some, he's also having enough that he's not getting away with that we notice. But the fact is, I mean, we used to see all the time with Kenley Jansen, like just throwing a terrible pitch and getting a fly out and like, got his man, and
it's the old better to be lucky than good.
Yeah, I guess. And even that home run that Carroll hit today, it's only a home run in 6 stadiums, so 24 other places, that's a fly out to the wall. And you're like, well, got his man. And, it's none of that is a defense of Tanner Scott. It's just an example of how little tiny things can change a lot. And this one, Dodgers ended up winning the game anyway.
Yeah.
And so maybe it's not the best example, but when you're looking at the course of 162 games, there's 5,000 little moments during those 162 games where things could have gone either way and it could have changed the entire season, which is why, why they play the games, why you don't play it on paper, all those things. But yeah, I'm ready for some of those things to start going the Dodgers' way.
Yeah, we got a couple of super chats from our buddy Richie Flores, who was at the game today and also celebrated his birthday party yesterday. I couldn't be there because I was not feeling well, but appreciate Richie with the $4.99 super chat saying the Dodgers this weekend looked fantastic. Base running, clutch hitting, and great defense. Sincerely, the Yankees in the 5th inning of Game 5. BS play. He also added, getting tired of tomato cans shutting us down. And yes, it says tried. I know you want to correct him on it, but I did it for you. And he's getting tired of seeing the tomato cans. The problem is, Tanner Scott is not supposed to be a tomato can, or he is a very, very expensive can of tomatoes at, $20 million a year?
Yeah, I think he's specifically talking about the tomato cans on the other teams shutting down the offense. But also, Zach Gallen isn't supposed to be a tomato can either. He has been this year.
And Brandon Pfaadt has been pretty good at points in his young career, and
especially against the Dodgers. So
I don't know, something about them getting it up against the Dodgers, which I guess
I understand why people are tired of that. Also, doesn't mean it's not true. I mean, you look at the Angels; they went 3-90 since they swept the Dodgers. The Angels sweep the Dodgers. They're talking about getting back to the playoff race, and then next thing you know, they're literally in last place in the American League West. And it's the fact. And I've told you last year I ran the numbers. I don't remember them right now, but last year teams in the series after playing the Dodgers had like a 385 winning percentage in their next series, because World Series hangover is a real thing. Yeah. And I really do believe that this will help the Dodgers in October when, hey, we've been playing teams playing like they're in the postseason all year long, and other teams will be playing against that for the first time. I hope it helps. I don't know, but at least it won't feel unfamiliar to them to have a team trying like it's the postseason against them, because that's what's been happening all year long for them. And yeah, it doesn't make it feel any better, but I have to keep reminding myself, this would be a lot worse if the Dodgers weren't in literal first place right now.
Yeah.
Like as frustrating as this season has been, they're in first place. If the season ended today, they would be in the playoffs. They would, they'd have to play in a wild card series if it ended today, but they would be playing that at home against the worst team that made it into the playoffs in the National League, which maybe we'd rather play a better team because, we're not confident in the Dodgers playing well against bad teams. But, it might be, I don't know who it would be. Would it be the Reds right now? The team the Dodgers just swept? I don't even know who's the last. Oh, probably the Mets, I guess. Yeah, it would be against the Mets right now.
Okay. Yeah.
So, but anyway, all that to say, things could be a lot worse, and there's over 20 fan bases in Major League Baseball right now that would love to be in this terrible situation that we're in as Dodger fans.
Yeah, you mentioned a point there about World Series hangover, playing poorly after going to and winning a World Series and all that, and that is a little bit of a narrative or through line of my next topic I want to touch on. But before we do that, I do want to thank people for hanging out with us on this Sunday, even if you missed the first version of the show because I messed up. Like the show, subscribe to the show. We'd appreciate it if you would do that. It does help us out a whole bunch. If you're looking for a different way to support the show, check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/realfrg. Click that now functioning QR code just over my face here. $5 a month is our most popular tier. It gets you access to our Discord server. We had our first members only watch party where I also probably made that a little bit more convoluted or difficult to find than it needed to be. So we'll fix that for the next one. But for the folks who came and joined us, it was fun hanging out with y'all.
Yeah, at least you only made it too hard like 6 separate times over and over again.
I'm trying to get it in the members only thing so people are like, oh, I want to watch that. I'll pay the $5. It's all a scam. I'm running a scam. I'm just kidding, guys. I'm really not. I'm trying to figure out a way to make YouTube members and Patreon work together, but we appreciate your guys' support either way. We wouldn't be doing the show without you, quite literally. I mean, I'd probably talk to Jeff about Dodger baseball here and there, but we wouldn't do it on the show. Do this for you, I guess.
Yeah, we definitely wouldn't be recording it and putting it on YouTube.
Yeah, recording it almost twice today. Not that much. But all right, let's talk about the consistently inconsistent Dodgers and excuses, really, as we head into the month of September. We already talked a lot about this game in particular today. Dave Roberts with a quote after the game. Again, it was a lot of a good game, and then the 8th inning happened. Dave, each night it seems like there's something else that is not all put together in one particular game for a longer stretch. Today, of course, it was Tanner Scott. On Saturday, it was the 7th inning defense kind of cratering, and then also no real offense to be found. Friday, I don't even remember, but still, that's a through line that we've seen really over the last 2 months where they are, I think, 2-3 games under 500 since the start of July. I don't know. Obviously, they are really trying to figure out what the issue is. Like, it's not just Teoscar, it's not just Shohei Ohtani at the leadoff spot, who loves hitting dingers and then not much else in between, but also still being incredibly productive and still being the MVP favorite and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, thoughts on Dave's quote there, because there is something different every single night. That's just like, how is this what we're watching or seeing from the defending World Series champions that on paper got better in the offseason?
Yeah, I guess my first thought is I read that quote from Dave and it doesn't, the word excuse would never pop into my head. This feels like a manager who is as frustrated as the fans are and saying, why is it always something? We need to stop doing that one little thing that's screwing things up.
Yeah.
Because the fact is, it's a factual statement that he made, and it didn't feel like an excuse at all to me.
I will say that one's less of an excuse. We're getting more into the excuse on my next quote I'm going to put up on the screen, but I digress.
Yeah, but as you often do. It's true. It's a factual statement that the Dodgers are kind of shooting themselves in the foot in different ways each game. They're finding new ways to lose, new ways to struggle to win, all those things. It's very inconsistent. And every team has inconsistency throughout a season, some more than others. And this team, the way it's built, shouldn't have as much inconsistency as it does.
Yep.
But a lot of the inconsistency earlier in the year was Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts struggling. They're, for the most part, not struggling anymore. And Shohei Ohtani has had his ups and downs, but like you said, overall, he's still having a great season, probably going to win the MVP. Will Smith has been good for most of the season and struggles lately, but it's the other guys who they brought in expecting them to be consistent. Teoscar Hernandez, Michael Conforto were supposed to be, even if they had played to their, kind of average season, don't even need good seasons for them. Just kind of give me an average Teo season, an average Conforto season. If we were getting those, the Dodgers would be a much better team right now. But instead, we've gotten the worst imaginable season from Conforto and a pretty darn bad season from Teo, especially since the injury. Whether that's related or not, I don't know. But and things like that, and then you throw in the injuries and the pitching. Obviously, the bullpen. You could say the same. Everything we said about Conforto could be said about Kirby Yates, and everything we said about Teo could be said about Tanner Scott. And they just haven't gotten the performance that they thought they were paying for when they signed some of these guys in the offseason. Those 4 guys specifically are all guys the Dodgers signed this offseason, and all 4 of them have underperformed massively, and that's been huge.
Yeah. Worth noting, I saw my buddy Blake Williams. Of course, you guys know him over on the Dodger Blue channel. He had posted earlier before the game, Michael Conforto over his last 66 games hit 206, 276 with a 371 slug. Teoscar Hernandez over his last 68 games, 209, 252, and a 382 slug. Having both of those guys in your lineup kind of day in and day out makes it that much more difficult to have good, consistent games offensively and not expecting everything to go through Shohei Ohtani and everything to go through Mookie, who was lost for the majority of this season, and then Freddie, who's had his kind of ups and downs while he struggled with some injuries and all of these sorts of things, and still put up a very good Freddie Freeman-esque season. Will Smith kind of having his second half fall off or whatever. It can be difficult to put points on the board consistently when you have all of these sort of just issues or really dudes not hitting, not performing. And like you said, if you could just put a back of your baseball card type of numbers, this team would probably have 10 more wins or something like that, maybe. And early in the season too, starting pitching was so bad with Blake Snell missing and other pieces or whatever. But I want to shift to what I perceive as an understandable excuse, but still an excuse, in my opinion. We'll read this and then we'll kind of digest it. But Miguel Rojas had his excuse. Again, I'll air quote that you guys can't see. You guys gotta understand we're human beings. Sometimes you get tired, especially mentally. You got a lot of things going on in your life and your year, and it's not easy to be locked in every single time, every single game. This gets to that conversation we had about Tyler Glasnow, about he can give us the cliche answers and people walk away from him, or he could give us a more thoughtful answer and then get that picked apart by somebody like me, while I'm picking apart Miguel Rojas's statement here and saying, listen, we're human beings, things happen, we get tired. Yeah, I get it. We all get tired. I'm tired right now. I'd love to be asleep. But I also don't get paid a whole bunch of money to play all of these games and entertain other people. So I don't enjoy seeing that or reading that or hearing that. I understand it, but as a baseball fan, as a sports fan, I'm like, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think for me this one's easier to take because it's coming from Rojas, who isn't really part of the problem when it comes to that.
Yeah,
to me it kind of reads as a team leader trying to stick up for his teammates a little bit, which is fair, admirable. And if it, all of it comes around to, I think it was Matty Man in the chat earlier said, if they turn it around, none of this matters.
Yeah.
And, if Dave Roberts' job is to motivate guys in a way that will help them turn it around, and that's why when Teo was benched for being a slacker, it wasn't made public. He wasn't thrown under the bus publicly because that's not going to help anything. He was talked to privately, and when he's just benched because he's sucking lately, well, that's something you could be supportive. Say, yeah, I really think a 2-day break for Teo is going to help him get his head right and get back in there to be the Teo we know he can be, And Miggy Rowe is kind of in that same role. He's not the manager, but he is the veteran leader. And I'm sure that's his mindset in that quote is, I'm trying to help motivate these guys. And I want them to understand that I get it. I know, and so I'm going to take the bullet from the media, from the podcasts on this one right now, because I'm doing my part. So I can take that, as George Washington says to Alexander Hamilton in Hamilton, my name's been through a lot. I can take it, and that's Miguel Rojas is George Washington in this scenario. And so he is he's taken fire for his teammates who are underperforming. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I'm okay with it, and I'm okay with him taking some fire for sure, because we've heard from Freddie enough, and Freddie's going to say kind of the same things through his clenched teeth kind of responses when things are down. Mookie isn't going to give you anything. Shohei doesn't really speak with media when things aren't going well. You don't get anything out of Will Smith because he is like a sack of nice cold ice, which is nice. It's beneficial. I'm not going to go any further into explaining my decision to call him ice.
Or sack, for that matter.
Or sack. I mean, you can have a sack
a
of
lot
ice.
of words could have been different in that sentence for sure. Yeah.
Listen, I'm coming up with this shit on the fly, man.
You'd never know.
but I digress on that one as well. I get it. I'm not a massive fan of it. Saying Court the Crusader being a multimillionaire makes someone superhuman. No. But also, you get paid a lot of money to not have things going on in your life, unless you create other things going on in your life or whatever. I saw another one in the chat, somebody saying something about, agreeing with my kind of perception of it. I can't find it right now. So we'll move on.
And the fact is, if I thought Miguel Rojas was saying I'm okay with us underperforming because guys are tired, then I would have an issue with it. Yeah. The way I read it is, Miggy Rowe saying, yeah, these guys, I know they're tired. I get it. We've all been there. They need to step up and fight through it. And, and I think that's why the Dodgers seem to feel there will be a switch they can flip, because I'll tell you what it reminds me of. Did you watch Lost?
No.
So the first 2 seasons of Lost were awesome. And then season 3 and 4, there were several times where I got to the point, it's like, nothing has happened in the last 4 episodes. If next episode doesn't advance the storyline, I'm done. And then they'd have a good episode. And then we'd go back. And the problem was, starting with season 5, they said, okay, we're only doing 6 seasons. So then at that point, they knew they had an end point that they were working towards. So then they knew what they wanted to get to at the end, so they could start advancing those storylines once they knew when it was ending. Seasons 3 and 4, it's like, crap, this show's making us $1 zillion. We need to keep dragging it out, but we can't advance too much or we'll run out of storyline before we run out of people willing to give us money. And for me, I think that's, when you get to October, it's like, okay, we know our season is ending no later than November 1st. Hopefully, we're the last ones playing at the end. But I think it is easier to lock in. We saw it last year with the stuff Max Muncy talked about getting the team to just say, okay, I know you've got a wife and kids. I know you've got this and that and the other. Screw them. For the next month, you are a baseball player and only a baseball player. And I definitely understand how you can do that for a month, but not do that for 7 months.
Do you think maybe they're leaning or relying too much on that, knowing that, hey, in now 28 days or 30 days from now, it's just going to be the boys and we're going to focus on baseball. So right now, let's just kind of throttle down a little bit. Do you think that maybe is something that's creeping back, in the back of their mind? Because they figured out the formula last year, at least a formula that worked for them last year. Be with the boys, you win a title.
Yeah, and I don't know, but it might be. And that's my concern because, that mindset, that addresses all of the issues that do have to do with focus. And so if I knew for sure that 100% of the Dodgers struggles were because they're tired and they're humans and they're not, having trouble focusing, I'd be fine with that because I know, okay, they can lock in. But the problem is if you get to the point like Kike Hernandez, it's why I've said, I'm worried about his superhuman postseason abilities because it's just a step forward of his actual abilities. And if he can't hit at all in the regular season, well then, X plus 2, say Kike is X and Kike in the postseason is X plus 2, So if Kike is a 7 and then he becomes a 9 in the postseason, awesome. We got a 9. If Kike is a 4, only becomes a 6. If he's a 2, he's a 4, it's like, it's not just going to be all of these guys. If you forget how to hit because you weren't focused, it's not like you're just going to suddenly remember when the pitching gets tougher in October, so that's why that's my concern about that whole concept, because I don't know how much of the struggles do have to do with lack of focus.
Yeah. I'll add this. I have the final quote here. This is another one from Dave where he kind of echoes this thought, the sentiment that Miggy Rowe is talking about, and circling back to the idea of a World Series hangover, in a way, it being a long season. But here's Dave's quote: "I hate going backward and talking about last year, but when you're playing a long season, you're defending champions, people are coming after you, which we know and understand. It's just hard to keep that dialed in focus every single night. That's just reality. That's human nature." And it sounds like they him and Miggy Rowe talked before they spoke with media that particular evening.
Got their talking points, yeah.
Got our talk. This is what we're talking about here. He added, it's not from lack of preparation or effort, adding the Dave stuff at the end. It's just kind of the human part of it. But there has to be a point where it has to be sharpened, and he's saying the time is now. He thinks a switch can be flipped, and I think with the calendar turning to September, it's time to flip that switch. It is time to get things going. It's time to get that number 1 seed if you can get it in the National League. Bare minimum that 2 seed, get that bye week, because again, these boys know how to. They figured out how to survive the 5 days off and start playing with all of your focus, all the things. Put your wives and or your girlfriends on the back burner. Get a dog sitter to watch the kids, whatever you need. Go focus on playing baseball, because Clint Pasillas needs to see this team win back-to-back World Series so I can tell Padres fans to shut the F up.
Yeah.
Specifically for me.
If there is a switch to be flipped, now is definitely the time to flip it. You cannot wait until October. And, some of the concerns is, guys like Conforto. Conforto didn't play late into October last year.
Yeah.
Conforto didn't even play into September last year, if I remember right. Wasn't he? Was it the end of the year that he was hurt? I can't remember. Might be. I know he didn't have to worry about being in the postseason last year because he was on the Giants. And, he had a long off season. He played through the whole season. So he had from September 29th till spring training to rest up, and then came in terrible. So, for some guys, I think there is a switch to flip. I don't think it's a team-wide thing. And we'll have to see as we go on who fits which category and what does this look like. I do think when you get Tommy Edman back, hopefully if Tommy Edman's healthy, he hits better, because I have to think that his struggles during the injury were injury related.
Ankle did not help for sure. Yeah.
And so you get a healthy Tommy Edman back, and if that creates your best outfield option, which is Edman in center, Pages in right, and Teo in left, maybe that helps. Obviously, getting Max Muncy back, which I guess we didn't even mention, Muncy won't be back quite as soon as we had hoped because he got sick, and so that pushed back his rehab time, and so we're probably still at least a week away from Muncy, whereas we thought it might be in the next couple of days, but they said he won't be back on this upcoming road trip. But when you get Edmund and Muncy back, it's a different team because they're replacing in the lineup whoever it is, Conforto and Freeland, or throwing Kim in there. Like you suddenly got guys that will be part of flipping the switch. It's not one switch. When we talk about flipping the switch, there's 26 guys on the roster plus 3 more guys coming back. So that's at least 29 different switches that need to be flipped, and there's probably multiple switches per person. I'm not a biology major, so I don't know, but there's a lot that needs to happen, but they can't wait until October for it to happen. It needs to happen now, so that they're used to being good by the time October rolls around.
Yeah, and again, if it does happen now, if it happens some point this week, I mean, you're playing the Padres starting on the Pirates starting on Tuesday. You should be able to take the Pirates in that series. I don't know if Paul Skeens is pitching in that series, who's, by the way, over on FanDuel, the odds-on favorite to win the National League Cy Young Award. How I'm looking at is my, what is that, like 7th down, my boy Yoshinobu Yamamoto, plus 15,000. What is that? How much is that? How much is that in dollars if I put $100 down? I forgot how that works.
You'd get $15,000. If you put $100 down and Yamamoto wins, you get $15,000. So
somebody give me $100 real quick. I'm gonna go put it all on
Yamamoto. Only at minus 1,500 to win the MVP.
I know
after
that guy.
Being at minus 10,000 for a long time. He's still the heavy favorite because he's the best player in the league by quite a margin. But
it turns out Kyle Schwarber can't pitch.
Also can't hit singles or play defense. Like
God, he can't.
He's got more home runs than RBIs. So if this was 1984, he'd have a very good shot at the MVP award.
Anyways, to button up the conversation here, I just need to see what I perceive as championship baseball out of this ball club, and that is clean baseball, consistency, playing 9 innings without booting a ball or having a play where you raise your eyebrow or have to like kind of crane your neck. Like what was that? What was that? Not having a play where Kike Hernandez doesn't slide despite the fact that Mookie is telling him down, down, down. He sees the play happening in front of his face and he's just like, nah, I'm good. I don't want to slide.
Yeah,
I need to see a better brand of baseball. We all need to see it. For Dave, I would love to see a better brand of baseball because I think you're going to start to see more of those. I saw a few in the chat, and I think these ones weren't as sarcastic as they have been of late. I just don't want to see fire Dave Roberts because I like him. He's my friend. He's a good dude.
Yeah, also he's a good manager, and ultimately any success or failure is going to come down to the players. And like I think we as fans sometimes think it's a motivation thing. And part of that is because we get these quotes like this, but the fact is sometimes you slump, and it's easier to just say out loud, oh yeah, I just got to get locked in. I know it's in there. I just got to lock in and do it, when really, what, sometimes you're just bad for a while. So it's, Dave Roberts isn't going anywhere. I guess if the Dodgers somehow tanked so badly this year that they actually missed the postseason, which somehow people still think that's a possibility. And it's just not.
I mean, technically it's a possibility.
It's a mathematical possibility, but it's a possibility that I'll be People Magazine's sexiest man of the year next year. And
got my vote.
Hasn't not happened yet, so it's still technically possible. I am Schrodinger's sexiest man. But it's they just need to play better, and because that's ultimately what makes a good baseball team is baseball players playing baseball goodly.
Mm. Score more points than the other guys, and you will win. You will be happy, and you'll be hoisting that piece of metal at the end of the year. But I think that about does it for this edition of the show. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Didn't get as chat heavy. Didn't get into voicemails today. I think Jeff and I just wanted to talk after taking a couple of days off because of a myriad of reasons, including your boy wasn't feeling too good, and he had to be up early on one of the days. But I'm feeling better. Dodgers won a game. That's the important thing, I guess. So as Diane said in the chat here, smash that like button on the way out. We appreciate it if you would do that. Jeff, do you have any final thoughts before we say bye?
Yeah, no, it could have been worse because at least the Padres had the decency to lose 2 out of their 3 games this weekend too. And so now, and the Padres go to play, they play the the Orioles. So we need the Orioles to be good for a few days and then go back to being bad when the Dodgers get to Baltimore. And luckily Andy Pye owns Paul Skeens, so that's all that really matters.
That's all that matters. Put all your money on Andy Pajes. Enjoy your Labor Day, everybody. Jeff might be live tomorrow. Subscribe to the channel to make sure, turn on that notification bell to see if he does go live. We always post when we're going to go live in our Discord. So if you want to be a part of our Discord, you have to sign up through Patreon or YouTube members, $5 a month, to support the show and independent Dodgers coverage here on YouTube. And with that, you also get access to a great community of Dodgers fans who always are very level-headed when the team is playing good and bad, including ourselves, including me especially. I love going in there and just kind of poking the bear and then walking out sometimes. But thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing if you did. That's free. That's a great way to support us. Yeah, we'll see you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.